Hello, I'm going to be walking you through Word and some really great tools for translation. So first, I've just opened a document here of a short story I wrote a long time ago. If we go to the Home tab, something that is important to keep in mind when you are creating documents that need to be accessible is we should be using these headers. So for example, if this is the title, then maybe we need to click title. Now you'll notice that it has like an auto style. If I don't want that style, but I still want the document to recognize that as the title, I'll right click on it and I'll do update title to match selection. And that will maintain, the font, the size, and all of that, but it will label it as the title. And then that way, if someone is viewing this in an accessible format, or accessing it through that, it will read the title as that. So make sure you're using titles and headers. Again, if you have a second header or something like that, you notice it'll change it, but we don't want it to change the format. Again, right click, update heading, and then it will do heading 1 there. So that's something important to keep in mind. Something else on the Home tab that's really useful is this find, or also this find and replace. So for example, if I was going to be translating this document and I knew that all window was going to be ventana, or maybe there was something else going on that I wanted to keep track of, I could type in find, and then I could type in ventana, and I could find next, and I could click replace or replace all. But you want to be careful when you do replace all, because you'll notice that this is a compound word, window pane, not just window. So if you're looking for window on its own, you might want to enter a space directly after that one, and then if you do so, make sure you enter a space after ventana as well. That way it won't find that one. So for example, you could hit ventana here, and so on and so forth. Now if you don't want to do that, you can always go up here to the undo. If you undo something, you can always redo it. So these are the little arrows at the top here. So that's the Home. That's really useful. In the Insert tab, the symbols is nice. You can go to more symbols. If you're doing any Spanish accent, you will want to look for Basic Latin or a Latin 1 supplement, and then you can find all of the accent marks that you might need. So you can kind of look for that as well and insert any character that you need. The next tab that's really useful as a translator is the References tab. So here we can add footnotes, for example, or endnotes. So if I wanted to explain the meaning of this title for some reason, I could just click up here, insert footnote, and it will create a little number here, and it will put those numbers in order throughout the document. So if I added another one here, it would add number 2, but if I added one in between those two, it would renumber them all, 1, 2, and 3. So that's kind of nice for your footnotes, and then they'll pop down here at the end of the page. If you use an endnote instead, it'll go to the end of your document. So we'll go ahead and undo those because we don't actually need them. And there are some other things here. If you go on to graduate work or other things like that, you might use Mendeley or insert citations and things like that. We're going to skip over to the Review tab now. We can, of course, check the spelling. You'll notice that now there's not just spelling, but also grammar. So here it'll be like, okay, you don't actually need the comma there. It's like, okay, great. Or here it's recommending a semicolon. So you can ignore one, or you can say don't check for this issue. And then it will break down the words, characters, sentences per paragraph, etc. in your document. So these are all the things that you can check now. And then if you set your document, or you have a document in Spanish, it will also do this for you in Spanish. So that's really great. The next thing that's kind of nice is the thesaurus. So for example, if we wanted to change some of these words, for window, we could highlight it and then click thesaurus, and it will give you all of these nice options here on the right hand side. You can also click word count, which is going to give you more than just the words. It'll give you characters, paragraphs, and pages as well. Something that I use a lot as a translator, or also just in editing in general, is this read aloud, especially for my own work. It's really hard to read something over and over and over again that you have written, because you get tired of it and you start missing things. So one thing I do is start from the bottom, line by line, and go up to check for grammar. So that kind of breaks that, your brain being like, oh, I've seen this a million times. So something else you can do is you can click wherever you want it to start reading, and you can click read aloud. You can also pause. So up here it'll pop open. You can change the reading speed. You can also change who's talking. So you've got David, Zira, and Mark. You can slow down the reading, speed up the reading, and click play. So you can pause that and do that. You can also jump between sections so you can jump paragraphs. So as you can see, it's kind of good to hear it out loud, because if you hear it out loud, then you might catch an error that you wouldn't have when you were reading it again for the 100th time. Something else that's really useful as a translator or editor, or also just as a professor, is this accessibility. So you might need to check the accessibility of your document at some point, especially if you work for a company or you have, they expect the documents to be, accessible across the board, especially for online documents and things like that. So you can click check accessibility. There's also now this possibility to translate a document. You can translate the whole document or a section. So for example, if we clicked on this paragraph here, we could do translate selection, and here you would select what language you wanted, and you could kind of see here. Again, this is a machine translation that does word for word translation, so it is not very reliable, but it might be give you a quick start to try and look at something. I would recommend, if you're looking at this to try and cut down your work, I would do sentence by sentence and not the whole document, so that you can compare each sentence and then you can change it. So you can actually type, so if you click insert, then you can change it, right? And it will insert that for you. So again, I don't really recommend using this for, your translations and things like that, but it could be a good start for something simple. Now, if you're doing literary texts and things like that, this will really not work very well at all. But sometimes medical formats or technical documents, sometimes it could be useful. Okay. Next, you can set your proofing language. So if you change it to Spanish, then it will give you that spell checker in Spanish, which is really great. Something else that I use all the time for you guys and also for clients and things is this track changes. The track changes is really great because, for example, if I did translate that and insert it, it would put a line through it and then show the client what I changed. The other thing that's really nice about it, so let's say if we did this one again, it will also show you that it changed the format to Spanish, right? So it will, the other really great thing about track changes is it doesn't just show you what was changed. The client and also you, when you go through it, or if you're working with someone to go through it, you can use this changes panel here and you can click previous or next, and it will jump to the changes. And as a client or as an editor or as a translator, you can either reject those changes or you can accept those changes, right? So if you reject them, it'll go back to the normal, and if you accept it, it will change it. So this is super, super useful. This will streamline your work really quickly. The next thing that's really nice is compare. You can compare two documents. So for example, I might compare my original version of this, which was vignette, and then my final version of this, which was window. And then if I click on it, it will create a new document that compares the two. And it will show you everything that's been changed, so this was flipped upside down, this was deleted, these were changed, so there was more things added, the formatting is completely different, etc. So it will break down all the formatting changes and it will show you what was changed. And again, I can move through these and go next, 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 and I can choose what to change, what to accept or reject. This will not change your other documents. As you notice here, it's created a new one. So it didn't change my original one. It's just showing me the original draft versus the new one. So if your client is asking what kind of changes you made, then you can create a compare document and send them this. And this is called a marked up document. So you can send them the markup. We don't need to save this because it's an example. And then finally, you can compare two documents with a basic side by side. So you can put these, two windows or two items side by side. So you can split your screen in half and have, the old version here and the new version here. And then this way you can review them, side by side. Oops. So sorry. So you can review each one kind of side by side and see what the changes are yourself. This is called a side-by-side view. You can find it in the search by just clicking side by side. You can click view side by side and then you can select your two documents, or you can drag them to the corner. But overall, these are the things that are really, really useful in Word that some people don't know about or maybe wouldn't use in general. And so these are just some things that I like to use that I think is useful. Something else is when I save these, if I go to File, come on. Why is it not opening now? If I go to File, thank you, I'll click Save As. And here, if I'm going to be translating this document, I'll put an underscore, and then I'll put the translation name, and then I'll put the new language, and then I'll put the date, the last date that I edited it. And that way I know exactly which document I'm accessing at that moment. So if I'm going to be translating this, then I know the original title, the translation title, the new language it's going to, and the date. And this will make sure that you don't send the wrong documents, or the wrong files to different, to your clients and things like that. So this is an in-depth look at some really, really useful tools in Word.